Hello and welcome to Live from the Eagle's Nest from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services National Conservation Training Center near Shepherdstown, West Virginia. We're looking at the beautiful view to the north from the big sycamore tree where the eagle's nest was located. Looking towards the grove in the center is behind our daycare building, but we often refer to that, and we might see the eagles in there today. They're in the area, they're doing well, and so we're here to talk about the eagle's nest and what happened this past weekend and answer as many questions as we can. So thanks for joining us. I'm Randy Robinson, the Outreach Coordinator here at the National Conservation Training Center. We want to thank all our viewers and supporters, thanks to the Outdoor Channel, the Friends of the National Conservation Training Center, our production team here in the studio, Bald Eagles 101, the Eaglet Monsters, and everyone who enjoys watching this great pair of American bald eagles. Thanks to our longtime viewers who have been here for more than 20 years, and our brand new viewers. Some of you may have just heard about the nest. It's gotten a lot of publicity online and over the media in the last few days since we did lose our big original nest Saturday night. So that's what we're going to talk about and explain what happened and sort of give our best ideas of what's going to happen in the future. And we also want to, so you go ahead and send your questions in anytime. I have a whole list of questions here to answer from Deb Stecyk and other folks who've already sent them in, but you can also put them on YouTube Live. There's a little chat room in the lower right, and I'll be able to see them here. So send in your questions anytime. And we want to say a special hello to our school groups, all the teachers, the homeschoolers watching. Welcome and thanks for joining us. We know that a lot of you have been watching the nest this winter and spring, and it was very upsetting to see the nest go over Saturday night, and we want to offer our condolences to all the students, especially the younger students who have a hard time processing what happened, and we'll talk about that too as we go on. We've got some questions about that. So Rob, if you could, we want to start off with a little video here from Deb Stecyk. And this is a nice video that Deb put together of the young eaglets. And then we'll take a closer look at the tree. But this was actually last Saturday, April 19th. And that was a beautiful day. It started out as a beautiful day. That's the female, Bella, coming in there. She just brought a fish in. There's the three young eaglets. They were right around 4 weeks old and doing very well, very healthy. But that particular day, we had a lot of warm weather, and we knew that there were bad storms out west, but they weren't predicted to be in this area at all. The day was peaceful, but about 10 o'clock that night, a very sudden and unannounced, unpredicted wind. There were no warnings. This wind came up. Some people meteorologists say they were straight line winds, or a derecho is another name for it. Not a tornado, but very powerful straight line winds, about 75 miles an hour. It all happened very quickly. Right here locally, we didn't have any rain or hail. Some folks in the region did. Trees were snapped, power lines went down. But right here at NCTC, we got that big gust of wind, and that lifted the big nest that we're looking at here. That's the main upper nest, and twisted it and then just threw it upside down to the ground. Unfortunately, the three eaglets all died. We got out shortly after that. My colleague Jim Siegel and myself came out with flashlights under the tree. We were hoping to find the eaglets alive. You know, we assumed they might be injured. But unfortunately, none of them survived. It's a 90-foot fall. So that's the bad news. The eaglets are gone. The good news is that the adults survived, and they have a lower nest. And we'll take a look at that a little bit later on. But Bella, the female, was on the nest. She went down with the ship, so to speak. She was there when the nest went over with her eaglets, and she only escaped at really the last microsecond. We just saw a blur of her flying off when the nest was, upright, or upside down, I should say. And she could have gotten hurt very badly. She could have easily broken a wing, but it's very fortunate. We're all very happy that both the adults are in good shape. We saw them back here just this morning. We've got some nice video of that from Paul Kolnik, but we appreciate Deb putting this video together of the young ones there. So Rob and Brett, could we look at the wide field cam view? Let's give folks a sense of a bigger view. Now this view is not streamed. It's a live view, and there was just a little bird went down there. But this is only available here, it doesn't stream live. But that's the big tree, the sycamore tree in the center. And you can see the old barn on the left and some of the fields. That give you a general feel for this. This is on the west side of the NCTC campus. And Brett, if you just go a little bit closer and just progressively move in, we'll get some better views of the tree. Now this is, we're operating on some presets, and we'll just keep going in. So that's the lower nest that we're beginning to see here. And if you go in a little bit closer, Brett, that tree, by the way, is about 100 feet tall and well over 100 years old. And the upper nest, we're beginning to see where it was. If you could keep going closer, Brett. About 5 years ago, we knew that the upper nest would not last forever. It was there for 22 years, which is pretty amazing when you think about it, especially after you see all that was supporting it. It was there for 22 years. It was started in 2003. Our first pair of eagles here laid their eggs in 2004. Then in the fall of 2005, we put the first camera up there, and people were just amazed at what they were seeing. If you go a little bit closer, Brett, we got those first views in 2006. It was a very good year. We had 3 young eaglets, and they all hatched, they all fledged. And again in 2008, 3 eaglets hatched and fledged. 2007 in between was not a good year. It was very wet and rainy and cold, and none of the eggs even hatched. But through the years, it's been a very productive nest. We've had over 45 offspring that have fledged from this nest. So, that's very good odds, in the world of bald eagles. So I started to mention about 5 years ago, we knew the old nest wouldn't last forever. Bald eagles' nests do go down. They don't, they're not engineered to last forever. 22 years is a good long time for a nest. There was a nest up near Pittsburgh that went down last summer. There was one near Washington, D.C., Dulles Airport, the Dulles Greenway nest that a couple of years ago, it slid out of the tree. In that case, the young ones were old enough that they were almost ready to fly on their own, and they were okay. But here, unfortunately, last Saturday night, we lost the 3 of them because they were nowhere near able to fly. They have to be about 12 weeks old, and those little guys were only about 4 weeks old. So they really didn't have a chance. So 5 years ago, getting back to the lower nest, we thought we would put a crude platform in there. And I want to mention that we only go up in this tree during the fall when there's no nesting activity. We would never go up there during nesting season. We don't want to disturb the eagles any more than they've already been disturbed. But in the fall, we'll go back and look at this again. But what we did 5 years ago was we simply laid some large branches across what we're looking at is the biggest and strongest part of the sycamore tree. It's a very healthy tree, although the limb holding the nest itself, the old nest, the original nest, has been dead for some time. So we went down to about 15 feet below the older nest that fell, and we put these cross pieces in, just a few of them, and we figured the eagles would eventually take advantage of it. And sure enough, they did. Just last fall, they built up that new nest. And at that time in the fall, we weren't sure which nest they would use. So we went ahead back in October and we mounted a new camera. Our friend, Kyle Friend, came out. He has a tree service truck, and he went up and mounted a new camera there that's looking onto the lower nest. And that's what we call Cam 3. At any rate, they built up that new nest. And then, to our surprise, they went ahead and used the old original nest, the upper nest, this year. And everything was going well. The eaglets were healthy until this big wind came up on Saturday night and ended that long history of the nest. So that nest has been around NCTC almost as long as NCTC's been here. We're all very sad to see it go, especially with the young eaglets in it. So, Brett, if you could go up to the maximum close-up on where the upper nest used to be. It's just about 15 feet up in the tree. And there it is. That's, you can still see, if you, a little kind of hard to see with the glare of the sun out there now. This is a live shot of the upper nest, but you can actually see the camera up there on that sort of middle branch. And the branch that held everything up, the old timers will know, that's the perch that we look at. We call it the lookout post, but there used to be a second, smaller lookout post, and that's really what held the entire nest in there. And that's when that 75-mile-an-hour wind hit, it snapped that old, the shorter post, and that's what was holding the nest up. Once that was gone, there was nothing to hold that nest up, and it went over. So while we have the field cam up, Brett, if you could do a southwest view, we'll give folks a little more view of a wide angle and what it looks like to the southwest side of the nest. So it's a big open field. You can see the eagle tree, the nest tree in the background, and the lower nest. Sometimes, if you're on the chat room, you'll hear us or see us refer to the babysitting tree. That's that greenish tree just a little to the right of center. That's where the eagles like to go often at night. They can see the nest very well from there. And last night, actually the last couple nights, both the adults have been in that tree. And then, Brett, if you could go to the daycare tree, we'll end up with the daycare tree and just give a shot of that's the tree behind our daycare center. And they often like to perch in that tree as well. And we can actually get that from our field cam. So, like I said, the field cam is not, it doesn't stream. But Rob, if you could go back to the main tree cams, we do have 3 cameras up there now. And this is the view looking at, again, that's the lookout post on the right. Now we're looking at daycare. That's the small building you see on the right. And those are the trees behind daycare that we just saw another view of those. So we keep an eye on the eagles during the day, and if we see you there in a particular place, we try to move the cameras to where they are. Now, Rob, if you could go to our wide-angle view on cam number 2, and that'll give us a view a little to the right. Now you see that's the main limb that held the nest up, and you can see that sort of darker brownish colored part. It doesn't look like it here, but it's sort of horizontal or flattened, and that's where the nest sat. And the eagles often like to perch on that upper nest. And now, Rob, if you could, and that's the buildings of the National Conservation Training Center in the background. The Potomac River is just behind those buildings, and that's, of course, where the eagles would go fishing every day. And that's where they hang out most of the day now that the young eaglets are gone. So, Rob, if you could look at cam 3, now we're looking down onto cam 3, or onto the lower nest, and it sustained a little bit of damage. It's minor damage, really. When that upper nest fell, it clipped the edge of the lower nest, but that's almost cosmetics. You can see a few of the sticks in there, and some of the bottom of the upper nest, the old nest, being 22 years old, it kind of turned to compost, really. And that you can see the remains of some of it in there. But when Jim and I went out last Saturday night, the nest, the upper nest, the old one was pretty much obliterated. The wind was so strong it scattered that nest, and it was just sticks scattered on the ground, and we did find the young ones there. But in the background of this nest, right in the middle, that is actually the limb going up that held the old. Now you see two big limbs. The one on the left with the blue cable, that blue cable is our Ethernet cable that goes up to the cameras on the upper tree, or where the upper nest was. The limb to the right, the big one in the middle in the background, that limb is actually dead, and it's been dead for a long time, but that's what held the old nest up there. And that's why about 5 years ago we put those limbs in the crotch of the big tree, like I said before, biggest, strongest crotch of the tree, and that's not going anywhere. So we will inspect it again in the fall when we go up. We'll most likely move the cameras around, reposition them, and see if there's anything we need to do. In the meantime, most likely we're going to see the eagles back in that nest. We did see them there during just this morning, and Deb and Paul posted some nice video online, and we'll look at that in a little bit. But Rob, if you want to go back to the wide-angle view, I'm going to go ahead and answer some questions here since we have so many of them. Let me get started on those, and then I'll just start here at the top and go down. Jessica says the new nest looks small. Will it be able to house a family? Yeah, it is smaller, Jessica, but keep in mind, back in 2003 when the original nest was built, it was smaller like that too. Bald eagles continue to build year after year. They bring new sticks in, so over time the nest gets bigger and bigger. And when we go there in the fall, we'll look to see, we'll also have an arborist here, our Kyle Friend, our arborist, to see what he recommends as far as, should we trim some limbs, whatever we can do to make it sturdier, we're going to do that. So that was a good question. Yeah, they did make a new nest, and mostly they did that back in the fall of this year. And we did see them there this morning, so it was nice to see them in the nest. Hello to Jackie from out in Sherwood, Oregon. Glad you could join us. And I want to say hello again to our school groups. And somebody was asking the question, how do you explain this to young children? Just this morning I heard that our daycare teacher, Nikki, and her folks were having the younger kids do artwork. And I think that was very nice. I got to see some of their examples this morning that Megan sent to me. I think that's a good thing to do. Of course, it depends on the children's age, and the teachers and their parents know them better than anybody. I don't want to generalize, but any way that you can to help the young kids understand, we help you. We're glad you're doing that. And we've got a lot of folks from all over the country. Thanks for joining us today from Nevada and Michigan. Dana asked, will there have to be human help with fixing the nest that was damaged? No, they'll do that themselves. The nest that we just saw was just sort of cosmetic damage. That really didn't hurt the underlying foundation of the nest. And I'm guessing that over the next few days and few weeks, you're going to see them bringing some sticks in. In fact, we have a video we'll play for you here in a little bit. Hello from Terra Alta, West Virginia, one of my favorite parts of the state. Beautiful up there near the Cheat River. Let's see, Orlando and Charlestown, Hagerstown, just up the road. From Judy, am I correct that there is a wooden platform on the new nest in the crotch of the tree? That's right, Judy. That's what I just mentioned. We put that there about 5 years ago when we had the tree truck out there. We put strong wooden limbs in, sort of fence post sized limbs, and that's what's underneath the nest that you're looking at now. And they're laid horizontally, and we put them in the strongest part of the tree. So it's got a very good foundation. So even though you see some that looks like the lower part of the nest, our camera was knocked a little bit out of line too, and that's why it looks a little bit out of kilter. So But the eagles themselves will fix that. That's not a problem for them at all. That's what they do, and they're very good at it. So Judy Eddy from Pinellas Park, Florida. She's been watching forever, pretty much, since 2006 when we put the cameras up there. And Judy does the blog that Steve Chase did for many years. Steve Chase started the original Shepherdstown EagleCam blog, and then Judy later took it over. So we appreciate Judy's good work, and Deb and Paul have been tireless about answering questions. And by the way, these folks are all volunteers. I work here at NCTC, but everybody that you see answering questions online, like Judy and Deb and Paul, they're all volunteers, and they're doing this on their own time, and because they love watching the nest, and they've been doing it for many years. So, we deeply appreciate their support and all the time they spend answering questions. Sheila says, my deepest condolences to NCTC and the team. I will miss them deeply. And still watching the live nest, so heartbreaking. Yeah, Sheila, our Facebook page has, I think, 1 million, or somewhere around 1 million clicks I just heard this morning, and several thousand shares. And so it's been an outpouring of support. The local newspapers and television stations, even Fox station in New York, the weather station, just sent me an email a little while ago. Folks from Dallas, Texas, and Belle was the original female at the original nest that had fallen. That's right, the original pair were Liberty and Belle. And by the way, we don't name the eagles ourselves. It's our sort of policy at Fish and Wildlife. We're an agency of biologists, and we give them a letter designation like E1, E10, 11, E12. But it's our folks, our friends of NCTC, and the folks watching, and usually it's the local students that name the eagles. And our Shepherdstown Elementary School did give the eagles some names this year. We had our friends of NCTC visit the school right before Earth Day, and the kids named the 3 Sage and Echo and Cotton. So I thought those were great names, and we appreciate that. And a lot of folks online were calling E12, the youngest of them, Little Bit. Deb gave it the name Little Bit. So Sage, Echo, Cotton, Little Bit. Those are the names that the viewers like to use when they're looking at the nest. And it is a little easier to help remember them with a name like that, as opposed to E10, 11, E12. But biologists do that because, scientists don't like to get too attached. If they're studying animals in the wild, it's just natural to get attached to animals that you're looking at all the time. But biologists are scientists, and they sort of have to have a scientific perspective of it. So that's why they generally give a name, a letter designation like that. E10, 11, 12, that means those are the 10th, 11th, and 12th eaglets that were hatched from this particular female known as Bella, B-E-L-L-A, in this nest. So I'm going to scroll on down and answer some more questions here. Poor Bella and Scout worked so hard for those eaglets this time. They really did. And Scout, he did a great job. He was fishing every day. He was bringing in lots and lots of food for them, and they were growing so well. Let's see, how long before Bella will have another clutch of eggs? Yeah, probably next year. That's a good question, Lacey. It's possible she could lay eggs this year. We might even see them mating again. They still have these nesting hormones flowing through their system, the male and the female. We might see them mating. We could see them bringing sticks in. It's possible, not very likely, that they could lay eggs. It's happened before in Florida, but that's a warmer climate. It's unlikely, but it is possible. More likely is that they'll resume next season and use this lower nest. I'd say there's a very good chance that come next January or mid-February, we'll see them lay eggs in that lower nest, and we'll start the cycle again. Can you tell us about the new nest and if it can be reinforced? Yeah, I think I've already done that, Jackie. And again, we'll take a look at it when we go up to do the camera work in the fall, and see, if there's anything we can do. But in general, we don't. Our arborist always says it's a bad idea to attach anything to a tree. Trees are meant to move. They got to move in the wind and the breeze. If you go nailing something in or tying something in, that will put stress on another limb. So it's better to let it be flexible rather than rigid. And bald eagles, they've been doing this for thousands of years, and they know how to build a nest for sure. All we did when we laid that foundation was just sort of give them a place to work in case the old nest went down, which 5 years later, unfortunately, it did. But it was a good run for 22 years here at NCTC. Is it possible to lay another clutch? Yeah, it's possible, not too likely. Has it happened here before? Never here, but it did in Florida. It's more likely to happen if something happens to the eggs early in the season. The main issue now is if they did lay eggs, let's just say next week, they're not going to, but let's say 1st of May to be more reasonable. It would be 38 days before those eggs hatched. Now it's mid-June and it's very hot and there's not a whole lot of shade and there's less fish. The fish are spawning now. So it's amazing that, eagles time all their biological clock is worked to do their timing in the winter and early spring. That's when food is abundant. There's fish spawning in the river. There's young animals out, rabbits, squirrels that they can catch easily. By midsummer, it's a little harder to find food, and it's hot up there. So I never want to say it'll never happen, but it's unlikely. It's most likely we're going to see the cycle continue next winter and next spring. Let's see. Dana setting. Yeah, Belle was the original female and Liberty was the original male. And I'm going on down. Paula says, glad Bella and Scott are hanging out at the new nest. Yeah, we were very glad to see them there this morning. They're both healthy. Like I mentioned earlier, very fortunate that Bella did not get hurt in that bad wind that came up. Do bald eagles seem to grieve when they lose their chicks? Well, it's hard to translate their emotions to human emotions, but, when Jim and I came out and Pat was with me that next morning, those of us that have been watching the nest for 20 plus years, we know when they're distressed, and we could hear their stress calls coming out. So we know that they were distressed. But whether they grieve, I can't really say. We don't know what their emotions are, but we do know they were stressed. They were definitely stressed, and we did leave the young ones out, the eaglets, on the ground. We wanted to make sure that the eagles got to see them on the ground and know that they were gone. So we left them out that night and that morning, and they were in the tree that night. Deb had posted a video to Bald Eagles 101 that showed both male and female in that tree that night. So I'm sure that they missed them, but I think that for them, life goes on, and they have to continue to do what they have to do to survive. They still have to catch their own fish, but we'll likely see them around here, probably working on the nest like they were this morning. And now, Rob, this would be a good place to go ahead and let's go ahead and start Paul's video. Paul recorded the nice video from early this morning, and in the lower nest, and we'll see the eagles coming in to the nest, and then we'll leave that play. While it's playing, I'll go ahead and answer some more questions. Yeah, the wind came out of nowhere. We were all surprised by it 10 o'clock last Saturday night. And that was Scout that just came in. Now we know, you see the black on the back of his head? Just a couple of little spots of black, kind of hard to see but that's how we know he's about 5 years old. Over time, eagles, now when they leave the nest as juveniles, when they're 12 weeks old, they're all dark colored. You know, they have no white head, no white tail, but over time they change, and you can see Scout moving some sticks around. That's just early this morning, a little after 6 a.m. You know, and he's gonna, that's his thing. That's what he does. He works, he brings sticks in, he moves them around, and in about 5 minutes, you're gonna see the female join him, and we'll just go ahead and let this run while I'm talking, and it was from early this morning, and we were all very happy to see them back in the nest again. LL Dove says, can you tell us the difference between the two? Well, the female eagle is always bigger, and it's a little hard to tell unless you see them side by side, but in a few minutes here you'll see Bella come in. She's the bigger of the two, and the easiest way to tell the male is look behind his head. If you can see the back of his head, those black feathers, and also he's got his above his talons, that part of his leg is a little skinnier. The female, she's a few pounds heavier, and she's got thicker ankles, so to speak, or what you might call the ankle area. And Scout up there has a fish, a little bit of fish jerky. It's looks to be a little bit on the dry side. Why do they build their nest so high in the tree? Well, to protect from predators. If they build it lower, you know, they bring a lot of food in there. If it was low, there would be raccoons and other birds trying to get in. As it is, even 90 feet up in the tree, oftentimes, every now and then we'll see another eagle trying to come in. They're looking for food, and food has been abundant, so they build it high up in the tree. They also want a tree that they can get in and out of easily, nothing with too many branches that they're going to hit their wings on. That's why they like to be up at the very top of the tree with minimal branches to interfere. But that is a good question. Lori G. from Western PA. Lori sent a nice slide in this morning, and we'll take a look at those in a little bit here. The lower nest had quite a bit of damage. They can repair it. That was cosmetic. Yeah, we're not worried about that. You can see Scout's already there working on it. He's on the job, and he's the best guy to repair it. But like I said, we'll look at that again in the fall. Yep, eaglet monsters help with the 3 cameras, the 3 eaglets, Spunky and Big Girl. Those were some of the early eaglets that hatched out of there. So yeah, people have been watching this nest for a long, long time, 20 plus years. So we've got a lot of old timers here. It's nice to see everybody back, and a lot of people upset. Yeah, it's always bad to see a nest go. It's happened all around the country. Eagle nest and any kind of bird nest, not made to last forever. Yeah, we will inspect the nest, and we'll move the cameras around as best we can to get the best views for next year. Right now, we don't want to go up there because, as you can see, they're still active in the nest, and we don't want to do anything to mess up their cycle. We only go up there in the fall when they're not around very much. The nesting season is over, and Michelle says it was so nice to see them on the lower nest this morning with the fish. Yeah, yesterday I believe it was, we saw Bella. She took Scout had brought a fresh fish in to the lower nest. She took it up onto the lookout post, and then down to where the old nest used to be, and she sat there for a long time, kind of looking down. People were wondering, thinking maybe she's grieving, or wondering what happened. I think she knows that the young ones are gone. I think they both do. Bella was perched there for a long time yesterday. Jackson says, so beautiful to see so many familiar names here. Yes, I agree. Let's see. Hello from Rosemont Elementary. Yeah, they're going to be out here for a field trip in May, early May. So we're going to be looking forward to seeing the second graders from Rosemont Elementary out here. Here's a question from Rebecca. What happened to with the eaglets? Will there be a little memorial? And here comes, looking at the video now, that was the female that just came in. And so you can see she's a little bigger, and she's got a totally white head. Now you can see she's quite a bit bigger than the male, and she's got the fish right there. It's a little bit of a dried up fish, but she's got bigger talons. She's just bigger overall, bigger wingspan, wider wingspan. She probably weighs a few more pounds than the male. So the young eaglets, we have them, and we're going to be very respectful and treat them with honor. We have talked with our folks at our National Eagle and Wildlife Repository, and also our migratory birds folks at headquarters. And we don't know exactly yet, but whatever we do, it's going to be respectful and honorable to honor their memory. We have a Native American flute player who's going to come out, and he's going to do this privately, but he's going to do a flute ceremony to honor the young eaglets. So I should explain here what goes on at I mentioned the repository. It's in Colorado. So many of you know bald eagles are protected by state and federal laws. And one of those laws and regulations tells us what to do with a bald eagle that's deceased. Sometimes they get hit on a highway, or by a wind turbine, or whatever the cause of death is. Those eagles, those adult eagles, are sent out to the repository, and then they take the feathers from those birds and they send them out to federally recognized Native American tribes request those feathers because they are used in their religious ceremonies and their religious practices. So the feathers from deceased eagles are at the repository. Those requesting tribes are sent those feathers. So that's what we would do if these were adult birds, but they're not. So we're going to talk with our migratory bird folks, and it is permitted to use, there may be a scientific use or an educational or instructional use, whatever it is. And we may we have a memorial grove here. We call it the Memorial Elm Grove. We have a grove of trees that looks out on the eagle nest. So we may also bury them out there. But like I said, whatever we do, it's going to be respectful of the young birds, and we're going to do the best that we can for them. So let me go on and look at some more questions here. Let's see, I believe we just saw the male take off from the nest. Dana said, I've moved away, but I still watch the NCTC Eaglecams. Yeah, and by the way, there are probably 50 or so different eagle cams around the country. Paul put together a nice list yesterday of cams that folks can watch around the country that have young eagles in them. A lot of folks this spring were looking out at Big Bear Lake in Southern California. They had 3 out there. One of them didn't make it, but I believe they still have 2. Linda said, lots of eagles have second nests. Yeah, the question was, will they build another nest? And yep, they already have another nest there that they built last spring and mostly last fall. Lori G says, returning the eagle feathers to the Native American tribes is beyond beautiful. Yeah, and another reason for that I didn't mention is, to prevent the black market of feathers. We don't want people going out killing bald eagles for their feathers. that would be very bad, and that's illegal. So part of the rationale and part of the logic for having our repository out there in Colorado is to legally collect those feathers and fairly distribute them to the Native American tribes that use them in their religious ceremonies. So it really is a way for the eagles to live on even after they leave the earth. So Michelle says, my husband is Native American. His tribe is Chippewa, and I very much appreciate you doing this for the eaglets. Thank you. Well, thank you, Michelle. Ola says, thank you for being so respectful and kind. I know you can't do it for every creature. That's right, but we do it where we can. Does Scout have any offspring? Not that we know of, Chrissy. Last year, there were no surviving offspring, and this year. So no, Scout, we think when he came here last year was about 4 years old, and that's really the earliest that they come. Here comes one of them back in. I believe that's Scout right there. The earliest, right around 4 or 5 years of age, that's when they get to be mating age. They get their white head, their white tail. That's a signal that they're mating age. They're looking for a mate. They're looking for territory. They're looking for a nest, or they'll sometimes take over another nest if it's available, and they can fight off the existing pair, or male or female, or they'll build their own nest like the original pair here did in 2003. So no, Scout, so far as we know, very doubtful that he's got any offspring at this point, but we certainly hope that he will next year. Will changing weather patterns cause problems at this nest with straight line winds or food supply? Well, we certainly can't predict that. Straight line winds are pretty rare. Probably 15 years ago or so, we had some here. Some people call it a derecho, but it does seem like weather patterns are changing around the country. So we can't predict. There was an awful lot of wind this year. It seems like the wind is blowing since from back in November. Let's see. It's been a windy year, and every morning I came in and sort of breathed a sigh of relief when I saw the eagle's nest was still there. It did endure many storms, and it's pretty amazing that it was up there for 22 years. That's a good long time. Will they breed again? There's a good chance that they will. We might see them this year. They've still got the hormones coming up, running through their bodies. Linda says, please leave the cam up so we can watch them. Yeah, we will do that for sure. And there's other birds that come in the nest too. Just this morning, somebody posted a picture of a pileated woodpecker was up there. We've seen, especially in the summertime when the adults aren't around, we've seen blue heron, great blue heron, and owls and hawks, and lots of other birds. So it's interesting, and we do appreciate the Outdoor Channel for keeping the streaming going as well. Which organization should I donate to support the live cam? Oh, that would be our Friends of the National Conservation Training Center. Now, we're a U.S. government agency. We can't take any donation for any of the cameras, but the Friends of NCTC do that. If you go on, they're a private nonprofit organization that does a lot of good educational work here and in the local area. And if you go on to the EagleCam website, if you scroll down below the video, you'll see a link to the Friends of NCTC, and we do appreciate that question and appreciate any donations that folks want to give, and that will support the future EagleCams, and along with all of the good education and outreach work that they do. Did the young ones perish due to internal injuries? Yeah, most likely. When we picked them up, they didn't look bad. They look like they did in the nest, actually. But I'm sure they had internal injuries, and had this, if there was any suspicion. Another question that came up earlier was, will there be a necropsy? No, there's no reason for us to do that. We know the cause of death was falling 90 feet from the nest. If it had been suspicious, if we had any doubt as to what happened to them, then, we would have asked our scientists to do a necropsy. But in this case, that's not necessary. Mary Beth says, I love their such care and kindness for the eaglets. That speaks volumes. Dana's up in Wisconsin. A great eagle nest for some of you to watch. Yeah, there's eagles. And if you're in the Mid-Atlantic area, go visit Blackwater National Wildlife Refuge. That's a great place to see eagles. And even closer here, if you take a walk or a bicycle ride down the C&O Canal Trail along the Potomac, or you kayak or canoe down the Shenandoah or Potomac, you'll see bald eagles. I mean, that's another part of the good news that I didn't mention. Bald eagle populations are going up, and so it really is a conservation success story. When I was a kid, there were very, very few eagles. So they were put on the endangered species list up until 2007. Then by 2007, the populations had come back up enough. They were taken off the endangered species list. Now they're still protected by the Bald and Golden Eagle Act of 1940, but it's no longer needed to have them on the endangered species list. They're not endangered. They're back. Their populations are back in a big way, and big thanks go out to all of the individuals that worked on that. Many of our Fish and Wildlife Service employees who are retired now, and state and agencies, NGOs, they brought eagles from Canada, young eagles, I should say, from Canada and Alaska down, and they repopulated areas where the eagles were very, very few and far between. And so those young eagles that were brought down from Canada and Alaska repopulated and brought those populations back. But that was a lot of work over a period of 30 or 40 years, and so we thank all those folks that were involved with that many years ago. Is it common for eagles to build a second nest while they still have a nest in use? Not very. I mean, it's not unheard of, but it has happened before. But it's very rare in the same tree, I should say that. So that was we were very interested to see that. Let's see. I have a few more questions that came in. Let me make sure I got those. And then I've got some photos that I want to look through quickly. Think we've answered can we have another clutch? Not likely. It's not impossible, but it's not very likely. More likely that we're going to see that next year. Here's one. How old is Bella? We think she is about 12 years old. So she came here for the first time in 2018. And at that time, she was about 5 years old. So 8 and 5, or we think she's about 12 years old now, 12 or 13. Do you know of a nest in Orlando? Yes, Betty. I specifically, not a specific nest, but I know there's a lot of them around Orlando. There's one there's a couple that are on camera. There's two very well-known ones in Southwest Florida. There was another one, but yeah, there's a lot of bald eagles in Florida. In fact, I think Florida might be the state. Alaska probably has the most bald eagles. The Great Lakes states have lots of bald eagles, and Florida as well. There's also a lot in the Mid-Atlantic now, especially in the Chesapeake Bay area. The channel, there's someone, JoJo mentioned the Channel Islands. Dr. Sharp has been studying that nest out there for many years. How old is Scout? He's about 5 years old. And Sonia mentioned, I was in Alaska, would hike and see them, loved it. Along the Mississippi, there are many nests. huge nest. Upper Mississippi National Fish and Wildlife Refuge has got a number of nests up there, and at least one of them have cameras on them. So let me look real quick here at my other questions. Oh yeah, this is Mrs. Galvin was saying, my students have been watching for 2 months and keeping science journals about all the amazing things we've seen. Our school is just down the road, so it made it extra exciting that they live near us. So that's great that you're doing that, Ms. Galvin. We appreciate your good work. So yeah, it is sad to tell them about it. One thing that our children's treehouse, our daycare center have done is having the kids do artwork. I think that's a great idea. So if you just joined in, you're watching live from the Eagle's Nest from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services National Conservation Training Center. We've been talking about the big eagles, the loss of our big eagle's nest that's been there for 22 years. We were sad to see it go. Here on April 19th, we had strong winds came in Saturday night, and it knocked that big nest out of the tree, and the 3 eaglets in that nest died. Right now, I'm going to bring up some photos. It'll take me a second here to get them up that I want to share here, and these are in kind of random order, but it'll just sort of be a little journey. This is one. Let me do something so they're not automatic. Let me back up here. So this is one that Lori G sent in this morning, one of her favorites, and I like it a lot too. It's a beautiful sky. And this was from August of 2023, the big nest there. And just let me get out of this for a second, and it wants to play automatically. And see if I can exit the automatic part of it. Microsoft is taking over. Okay, let me just take it from here and see if we can make this happen. We'll get back to Lori's photo. This was a photo by Dave Smaldone, if you can bring that up, Rob. Okay, I'm just going to do this manually. Beautiful wolf moon here. This was back in January. And Dave caught this photo of the moon sitting right, that's the original nest that fell. And now, same morning, Brett Billings was out there. Brett is one of our resident photographers here. Brett got, if you look very closely at the lower nest, there's an eagle in that nest, right above the old barn. This was shot with a telephoto lens from the ground, so it's a little deceptive. The old barn is not that close. I mean, the telephoto lens compresses the distance. But that's a fantastic photo there from Brett, where you can see both nests with the big wolf moon in the background. Here, and the eagles, here we are in January, snow on the ground. There's a raven visiting the nest looking for some food. So I'm just going to go through, and there's Lori's photo. I started on beautiful sky there in the background, and just some of our favorite photos. Oh, Rob's going to help me out here. And there's the little guys. This was actually the 19th. Thank you, Rob. Yeah, this was just last Saturday, and this was one of the last photos that we had of them all together. So that's a nice photo to remember them by. And we want to thank all of our folks who keep track and post them. Deb and Paul. Deb put this tribute together of Bella and Scout and their eaglets. And by the way, Deb and Paul both have YouTube channels that you can go and see all their videos. And Deb runs Bald Eagles 101, a Facebook group. So, and they keep track of many nests around the country, I should say. So if you want to look at some other nests, if you've got students in school, take a look at Facebook page, Bald Eagles 101. And Deb is tirelessly answering questions. and Paul and lots of other folks too. So, even after today, if you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat room, and we'll answer as many as we can. There's a nice photo of them from the 17th. There's a lot of good memories from these and past years as well. There's the little guys getting fed. Bella claiming the food. When the male brings the food in, the female generally kind of rules the nest, rules the roost, so to speak, and she will claim that food, whatever's brought in, for herself. There's a good example of the female on the left. You can see she's got a bigger breast, altogether bigger than the male on the right. But unless you see them together, it's kind of hard to tell. And this was quite a night. This was a meteorite that struck. First of all, there was a barred owl landed in the tree for a few minutes. And then it flew to the post. Bella got up and spread her wings and protected her. They were just very young at that time. She protected her eaglets. And then she called for Scout. He came in. That's Scout up on the post. And Scout is looking, if you look very closely, the building on the far left with the bright lights on, right above it, you'll see a very dim glow. That's a meteorite that came, that was the 28th, and hit the ground. We never did find it. We looked for it but couldn't find it. But that was a wild night there on March 28th. This was a young eaglet that came to visit in March 26th, and it's about 2 years old. You see the white feathers on it. That's what they look like when they're around 2 years of age. And you can see it's got a lot of white feathers underneath, but if you saw it from above, it does not have a white head or tail yet. It won't get those complete, what we call their definitive plumage, head and tail, until it's 4 to 5 years old. And that's Bella chasing it away. She's saying, get away from the nest. The young eaglet was probably looking for food. It was probably hungry and or curious. Bella's chasing it off. She didn't want it around the young ones. And there they are, just not long after they hatched. The first hatch was the first day of spring, March 20th. And it is amazing how fast the little ones grow, from being, not even as big as your fist to full adult age or size, about mid-June, about 12 weeks of age. There's a fish being brought in, and there's the first guy hatched. He's a day old at this point. The other 2 eggs were not even hatched. That was March 21st. So we generally look for them to hatch, mid-March in this part of the world, this part of the mid-Atlantic. And there's a rainbow. This was back in March. You can see this was a rainy day, and Bella has got her wings spread out there if it rains hard or snows hard, the adults will spread their wings out to protect the young ones. It's really a double rainbow. If you look closely, the brighter one right in the middle over our I-West building, or Instructional West, the Rick Lemon building we call it. And then to the left of that is a fainter rainbow, but that was a double rainbow that day. And here's a nighttime shot. We've got a infrared light on, so we can see them at night, but it doesn't bother them. They don't see the light. Only the camera senses that light. So we can see what's going on there in black and white anyway through the night. There's a nice shot of the pair of them in the nest. That's Scout on the left. You can see his black feathers. I believe that's him bringing a fish in, one of many fish that were brought in. And lots of straw brought in. That's, again, Scout with the straw. They bring straw in, nesting material. That's part of their bonding ritual. They bring sticks in, they bring straw in. It really takes 2 eagles to, raise a pair. It's very difficult for one bird alone to raise young ones. And here's a nice slide to give you a little perspective. Deb put this slide together. So this is looking from our Instructional West, or the Rick Lemon building, towards the eagle. This is the west view out of our instructional building. On the far left is the nest tree. And this was from a few years ago. So you see the big nest in the top of that big whitish colored sycamore tree. And then sort of to the left of center a little bit is the babysitting tree. That's where they like to roost at night. That's kind of their favorite place to be at night. Or sometimes during the day and even the evening, we'll see them to the far right of the screen in what we call the daycare tree because it's behind the daycare center or the children's treehouse. And sometimes you can hear the kids out there playing in the afternoon. The microphones will pick them up. Some people ask where the sounds of the children coming from, and that's the daycare. And the eagle's nest is about a quarter mile away, but those nests, or the microphones, are very sensitive. There's some food being brought into the nest in the winter. There's a wintertime shot back in February of the nest. And you can see the big nest and the lower nest there in the barn. And there's Bella almost covered in snow, kind of hard to see. It's amazing how great they are, how dedicated they are to raising their young ones. I think that's something that has impressed people for a long time. That's a good shot. And there they are in the lower nest again. You can see the camera there on the upper nest. So that's the nest that's gone now. It blew down Saturday night in that big windstorm. The upper perch, that long piece where the eagle is on, that limb is still there, but the old lower perch, which you can see to the left of the nest a little bit, that's what snapped. That's what caused the big old nest to fall after it had been there for 22 years. And there's Scout in the lower nest. Yeah, he brings in some big sticks from time to time. It's amazing he can fly with those. But there they are. So I'm going to go back and one last time here, and Rob, if you want to go back onto the one of the cameras and see if you can see them. I will see if we have any other questions coming in. Oh yeah, here's a good question. If the eaglets would have survived, would you have put them in the new nest? Well, Lisa, like I said earlier, when Jim came out, we were hoping we would find some of the young ones alive. We do have a very good wildlife rehabilitation facility not far from here. It's actually in Virginia. It's called the Blue Ridge Wildlife Center. They treat eagles. They treat many different species of wildlife, but they're very good. They have a veterinarian on staff. If we had found any of them alive, that's what we would have done. We'd have taken them there. They would have needed some care. I mean, if they would have seemed to be able to be put back in the nest, we would have tried to do that. And chances are, if we could have done that quick enough, maybe the eagles would have come back in. But unfortunately, none of them survived. But yeah, we would have gotten them to a veterinarian if we if we could have. Now, normally, our policy is we don't interfere with nests up in the tree. We let Mother Nature take its course, and but sometimes something happens that might be human caused. Tangled up in fishing line, for example, that happened to a nest in Tennessee a couple of years ago. So normally, we humans don't want to interfere with Mother Nature and their nests, because really you can do more harm than good. But in some cases, we try to do what we can. And this video, by the way, will be recorded. So if you missed the first part of it, you can go back on YouTube and watch it at any time. It will be recorded, and the same link that you're on now. And that's the live view that we're looking at. Nice green meadow out there, looking towards the grove of trees behind daycare. Hello from Paris, France. Well, thanks for joining us all the way across the Atlantic. Thank you, he says, thank you for the update and this fantastic work. Despite the pain of the last few days, nature heals itself and we must protect it as you do. So thank you for that comment. I think that's a good note to go out on. So thanks for joining us from Paris. Thank you for all around the country, here in West Virginia, locally in Shepherdstown, across the U.S. and Canada, and everywhere around the world that you've been watching these eagles. We thank you for your kind words and for watching this nest all over those 22 years. But the good news is that we think they're going to be back here. We saw them this morning, the video that you saw a little while ago. They were here this morning, and I think chances are very good that our eagle pair that are in good shape will come back, and we're going to leave the cameras on, so stay tuned, and happy spring to you all, and we will leave you for next time. Thanks again for joining us. Randy Robinson here signing off for the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service National Conservation Training Center. Goodbye and have a nice afternoon. Thanks, Travis.